A couple of days ago, I did a piece about joining the military, and I thought that it was a good idea. And unlike my other posts, that one got a lot of downvotes. Usually I have, upvotes to downvotes is usually a ratio of 10 to 1, sometimes 20 to 1. Once in a while it's been up to 50 to 1. But on this one I had a ratio of about roughly 2 to 1. 2 to 1 in favor, but there were a lot of people who thought it was a terrible idea for various reasons. And before I get into the post I'm going to do today, I just want to say this. I think it's actually very, very good when you disagree with people, especially if it's with people you respect, because I respect my audience, my subscribers, and I would assume that those of you watching respect me and what I have to say. And so I think it's very good, because you see, if you agree with somebody across the board on absolutely everything, there are basically two possibilities of what's going on. Number one, you're being conned if you agree with everything that somebody is saying. Or else number two, you're being led around by a stronger personality. Now, neither of those outcomes is something that you want. So if there's disagreement between us, I welcome it. I think it's a good thing. It's a healthy thing. Because I always want you to be thinking about what I'm saying. I never want you to take what I have to say at face value. Never agree with it, without thinking about it, without mulling it over. Because sometimes I'm going to be wrong. And sometimes you're going to disagree. And you're going to have good reasons to disagree. And that's a good thing. So thank you for all the comments of people who disagreed with what I have to say. And now I'm going to double down on this very issue. So here we go. I think that national military service would be a very good thing, and I'm going to explain why. Right now, we have a political disagreement going on between two groups on the right. One is the alt-light, and the other is the alt-right. Those who are on the alt-light have certain ideas that are very good, and certain ideas that are not so good. Ditto with the alt-right. It has some ideas, some observations that are very good, and some not so good. Both of them have ideas that are not practical, that cannot be applied in the real world. It's all good and fine to argue for an ethno-state, for various ethno-states to be created in the United States. You can argue that, sure. Is it ever going to happen? No way. No way. Not in our lifetime or in our grandchildren's lifetime. To think so is just to be delusional. Do you honestly think that at some point, say, Florida is going to go to the whites or the Hispanics, say, and say Alabama only to white people, and then never the twain shall meet? That's just ridiculous. On the other hand, the alt-light is peddling what they call civic nationalism, which is basically an appeal to people's better natures, as it were. An appeal to a nationalism based on civic principle, on constitutional principles. And that's all very well and good. But the problem is that, see, that policy, that idea, appeals to people's better angels. Just like the gym. You see, I have a gym membership. I paid a lot of money for it. And I have every intention of going to the gym, but I just actually never get around to doing it. You see? That's the problem with civic nationalism. See? You want to be striving for that ideal, but nobody ever does it because there's no reason to. There's no inherent appeal to it. See? So the alt-light and the alt-right have these divergent problems, and we are starting to see warfare breaking out between these two camps. And I don't think it's a good thing, and I think that there is a policy that can potentially make everybody happy and get everybody on board, because there's another key problem with the alt-light and the alt-right. They are not pushing specific policies that can be implemented for the good of the country. Policies that most people would think are a good idea, or at least policies that can enter into the debate and be considered by the wider populace. The Western democracies, it is very, very clear, are in deep, deep trouble. The Western democracies being the EU countries and Canada and the United States. They are in deep trouble, and they have to be fixed somehow. And the emerging right that we are all a part of recognizes this. At this time, we are having an internal battle, but we have no specific policy proposals, and that's why I am putting forth this video. This is an idea. Suppose we have mandatory military service. Everybody has to do it. Everybody at the age of 18 has to do 2 years. Now, this mandatory military service, you don't get paid for it. You get a minor stipend, say, you know, 50, 100 bucks a month or something like that. But you have to go through these 2 years of military service, and this service involves standard army training, boot camp, men and women, all, separated by sex. Everybody has to do it. It doesn't matter if you're overweight or you're ill or this or that or the other. Everybody has to do it, and everybody has to pass the basic training portion of this. Now, those who are too fat, or those who have some illness or some deficiency or some handicap of some sort, well, those who are simply too fat, they're going to have to lose the weight now, aren't they? And we create programs to stick them in them. But the point is, see, everybody does it so that for 2 years, everybody is serving the common good. Now, most people will recognize that being in the armed services creates certain bonds that transcend race, that transcend ethnicity, that transcend religion and economic background. This is something that we would want. This kind of forced brotherhood created by adversity. Now, a lot of the concept of this mandatory military service comes from Nassim Taleb's book, Anti-Fragile. Now, the thesis of that book is very simple. It says basically that systems become stronger and more robust to the degree that they are put under pressure. The more consistent, sustained pressure over time, the more robust and resilient those systems tend to be. Now, Taleb points to, for instance, the bones of people, of astronauts who have gone onto the International Space Station. They're up there for 6 months or however long, and when they come back, they often have stress fractures because their bones have become brittle and weakened by the lack of the daily pressure that bones suffer when they are on the Earth, subjected to gravity. The same with systems. The same with people. Because the problems that we are having in the Western democracies are problems of rich people, problems of societies that have become complacent because of their wealth and prosperity. Now, what's important is that we implement a system to somehow impose pressure to make our people anti-fragile, because that's the problem we're having. We have all these people who, suffer microaggressions and are quote-unquote triggered over every trivial little incident that happens in their lives. We have a brittle citizenry. And this brittle citizenry is not robust enough, not sturdy enough to carry forth the traditions of the Western democracies. Now, why do we want to carry them forth? Because these traditions, these ideas and concepts that are implicit in our societies, in our culture, they have served us well for hundreds of years, and they will serve us well for hundreds of years. But we have to have a population that is sturdy enough to carry this forward. We cannot have this brittle citizenry that will break under the slightest pressure, which is what we have now. Now, if we create a compulsory military service, there will be a sense among the population that we are leading up to this moment. As children grow, they will know that at 18 they have to do this and that it is difficult. It has to be difficult. It cannot be a soft option. It cannot be just a walk in the park. We have to be prepared for a 2 to 5% failure rate insofar as the people going through this 2-year military service. 2 to 5% failure rate, what do I mean? Well, possibly that those people simply suffer psychological damage such that they cannot, successfully function after that, and they have to be removed from the program. Now, this program would confer benefits, exclusive benefits, that people who do not go forth and do their compulsory military service would not have, specifically 2. The right to vote at every level of governance, and the ability to own assets, be that property, real estate, or stocks or bonds or any other asset. They would not be able to own an asset in any of the Western democracies that implement this program. Now, another issue that we have is immigration, both legal and illegal. I would venture to say that a great mechanism to solve this problem would be to have this compulsory military service for any legal or illegal immigrant. They would be allowed to do it, and if they completed 5 years, they would have automatic citizenry. 5 years and doing their service in good standing, and that would give them citizenship, and it would give both their parents and or grandparents, as well as their children, citizenship rights. However, it could not be transferred laterally. For instance, if some illegal immigrant does 5 years and receives citizenship, he or she could not confer it to a sibling. He or she could confer it to his parents, but that parent who is now a citizen could not confer it in turn to one of their other children who did not do the compulsory military service. You see how it would work? That way, this condition would automatically screen out those people who are not serious about joining one of the Western democracies. Only those people who have actually done service for 5 years would be citizens, and therefore those people would be the serious ones, the ones who really want it, who are motivated to get it. And since only their parents or only their children would get citizenship because of their own having overcome this obstacle to citizenship, well, there would be no incentive for one person to arrive illegally and then bring in the rest of his family, as happens today. This is something that we want. Now, if we have everybody who is between the ages of 18 and 20 serving in the military, of course, we're not going to deploy this enormous military out into the wider world to just invade countries willy-nilly. No, of course not. This enormous military would be used internally to carry out all manner of services that we as a society need, but do not have the resources to carry out. For instance, care of the elderly. Care of the elderly is extremely expensive. Suppose we had cadres of military-trained young people who, for 1 year, or maybe even 6 months, would come and take care of elderly people, older citizens who cannot take care of themselves. Now, these young people, they're doing their 2 years service, national service, and for 6 months or a year, part of their assignment is to help care for an older person. This would be a good thing. It would save the cost of hiring somebody to take care of this elderly person. A young person could take care of them, and this would help that young person by exposing them to older people, the difficulties of being old, exposing them to a wider world. The fact that every single citizen would have to do this 2 years would mix together everyone of every socioeconomic class, and we would learn to live with one another in a better, more fluent way. Because at this point in time, we all recognize that our societies in the Western democracies have become completely stratified by socioeconomic disposition. There are some people at the top 10, top 20%, and there are other people at the bottom 10, bottom 20%, and then never the twain shall meet. As I've said before in other posts, I did not meet poor people in America until I was in my 30s, because I lived in a bubble, a comfortable upper middle class educated bubble, completely divorced from the reality of most of the population in the United States. This is absurd. This is insane. And this stratification of our society has only increased since then. By having compulsory military service where everybody has to join in, everybody from all walks of life, from every economic strata, there would be an inevitable mix of people, and people of all strata would recognize the different realities of different people. Did you know that many black people believe that white people kidnap black people and harvest their organs for organ transplants? It's insane. It's as insane as the notion that the moon landings were faked. And yet a lot of black people believe this. Why do they believe it? Because they don't meet white people. White people for them are some outlandish class that they never see. I didn't even know about this, by the way, of this urban rumor among blacks until I saw it on YouTube. I thought it was crazy, but then I did a little bit of research and it's actually true. See, black people, not all black people, of course, some black people, probably more ignorant black people, believe this. Now, why do they believe it? Why would anybody sane believe such nonsense? Because they have not been exposed to white people who are not the devil, or just people just like them. And the same with white people who have all sorts of unfounded and irrational ideas about black people because they have simply not been exposed to them. Because every segment of our society has become stratified. And the cultural Marxism that has infested our universities and our wider culture is perpetuating this stratification, this isolation, this bubblification, if you will, of the different ethnic and socioeconomic groups. A national military service would destroy this stratification, this ignorance of the reality of lives of other people. It would be destroyed by a national service like this. There are a lot of benefits to this. And best of all, this is a policy that could be implemented and that would help both the alt-light and the alt-right in their political programs and unify them. Because the alt-light is interested in some sort of civic nationalism, some sort of way for everybody to be pulling together. The alt-right is looking for a way to homogenize and make us all more equal and not so disparate. They have settled on the notion of ethno-nationalism. But if we all are forced to do a compulsory national service of 2 years, military service, and make it difficult, put controlled pressure on the young people going through the system, potentially a lot of good could come out of it. And potentially this is a measure that both the alt-right and the alt-light can get behind. Now, this is an idea. You can disagree with me or not, but I think it's worth talking about. I'm already talking about it with other people on YouTube. And so I very much want to hear your comments. Even if you think it's a stupid idea or a shitty idea, tell me why. Because you see, it's all good and fine to disagree with something or someone or some idea or some concept or some proposal. You can disagree all you want, but you cannot disagree without good reasons.